Hello everybody, I'm in the money. These next two interest rate decisions made by the Federal Reserve could have a profound impact on your portfolio. The Fed is a dual mandate, right? Maximize price stability and employment, and they have several ways of achieving this. The first is through open market operations. Open market operations directly affect both the money supply and the money flowing in the economy, and interest rates by directly changing the money supply. What do I mean by this? When the Federal Reserve adopts an expansionary monetary policy to boost the economy, like they did in 2020 because of COVID, they buy securities, specifically Treasury securities, from the open market. This does two things. First, it injects liquidity or money into the economy to stimulate market activity. Second, it decreases interest rates. With more reserves in the banking system, banks have more liquidity and are more willing to lend. This increased money supply of loanable funds tends to lower the federal funds rate, which is the interest rate at which banks lend reserves to each other overnight. A lower federal funds rate leads to lower interest rates broadly across the economy, including rates on loans and especially mortgages. Home loans are the most sensitive and responsive measure to changes in interest rates. When they want to execute a contractionary monetary policy, they do the exact opposite and sell securities, decreasing liquidity in the markets and banks, and therefore increasing interest rates. These changes in rates affect companies too because they affect borrowing costs. This is why the stock market is so eager to have lower interest rates and hangs on every word that pours out of the Fed chair, Jerome Powell's mouth. While there are other factors that play into managing the federal funds rate, or the interest rate we all hear about, open market operations are the primary player in managing interest rates during upturns and downturns. So let's return to their dual mandate. First, they need to maintain price stability, which means keeping inflation at their target rate of 2%. When inflation runs hot like it has recently, the Federal Reserve and the FOMC, which is the committee that makes the interest rate decision about every 6 weeks or 8 times a year, will raise interest rates using open market operations. This will decrease liquidity in the economy and in the banking system, increasing borrowing costs and decreasing spending in an effort to bring demand for goods and services, aka inflation, down. However, paradoxically to their dual mandate, it can also cause unemployment to rise as companies lay off employees due to a lack of demands for their goods and services. This makes the FOMC's job a balancing act. They must keep inflation down with higher interest rates, but also be able to cut them before the elevated interest rates ripple through the economy. Right now, the target federal funds rate is between 5.25% and 5.5% as the FOMC monitors the economy, unemployment, and inflation closely. Their goal? A soft landing. This means that inflation cools to their 2% target while at the same time cutting rates to keep unemployment low. However, as we mentioned earlier, cutting rates stimulates the economy and demand for goods and services. This means that there's a risk of the Fed cutting rates too soon, causing inflation to rise, raising interest rates to moderate this, and then pushing us into a recession as unemployment feels the nasty effects of higher interest rates. It's an incredibly delicate balancing act, and the Fed has limited tools that can cause one side of the dual mandate to increase, like price stability, but the other to decrease, like the employment rate. Okay, so there's one risk. Cutting rates too soon, causing inflation to rise, and then raising rates to moderate inflation, causing employment to rise and pushing us into a recession. The second scary outcome is if they cut rates too late. Keeping rates higher for longer will definitely keep inflation down, but if held high for too long, unemployment will rise and can push us into a recession. With the inflation rate at 3% and cooling, the FOMC will be looking at cutting rates likely in their meeting in September, although some are calling for a cut in their July meeting, which runs for 2 days, and then Jerome Powell gives the interest rate decision on the 31st. Some argue that waiting for September may be too late and could push the economy into a recession. It's absolutely undeniable that we are at a critical turning point for the Fed where even waiting until September to cut rates could potentially have devastating consequences for the economy and, as history tells us, the stock market. Although cutting rates too soon could cause another jump in inflation. Let me tell you, these are some blunt tools that the Federal Reserve has to work with. As it stands right now, an interest rate cut is priced in for September, and a surprise cut on July 31st could cause a jump in the stock market. So can they manage a soft landing? Maybe, but it's too soon to tell, and it may be time to be more conservative in your portfolio by diversifying. This maintains exposure to equities in case a soft landing is achieved, but allows you to reconcentrate your stock positions in case of a collapse. So you diversify in case of a bad outcome, but then you concentrate into stocks if the stock market dips overall. Or you could always hold on to your butt and ride the waves, baby. That's it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm in the money. Check out the Patreon in the description below if you want to watch my trades. Otherwise, peace out.